where you were wanting to get after this new opportunity and do and start this new thing and lead and speak and all that. Like, I'm the leader that at that point in my life was like kind of hiding in the shadows. Like, I didn't want to get in front of people and talk.
How do you want to show up, and what defines you, and what's important to you?
When you come across the kids that, or even the adults that do want to be mentored and they put in the time and the effort, like, it's magical.
Nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever wasted in our careers, in our professional or personal development. Nothing is ever wasted.
Laisha Daley, finally in the house. Thank you so much for joining me on the NxtGen podcast. How are you doing today?
I am good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. So you are hands down probably one of the most intelligent people I have ever met, and I cannot wait for you to just unpack all of that for everybody out there. But let's get started with how we actually met.
All right. So this is a divine appointment, I have to say.
It is.
So for those that don't know, I'm a member of theChapel, which is here in the Tampa Bay area. I've been a longtime member of the church, and for a long time, I really had this desire to speak life into the next generation. And several years ago, our church created an internship around leadership development. And when I heard about it, like years ago, I was so I was so intrigued and interested, and I was like, how can I get involved? And it wasn't time yet. Like it wasn't ripe, for that season. But we have our mutual friend, Pastor Brad. So shout out Pastor Brad. And I started talking with him and said, hey, I raised my hand and just said, I want to get involved in the leadership internship program. And we just started talking about different ideas. And I told him about some other things that I do in the community around high schools and NxtGen entrepreneurship and technology and innovation. And he's like, I want you to meet this other person. I think you guys would hit it off great. And so that's how he introduced me to you, Marlon. And he was like, you both come at the world of entrepreneurship in different ways and different perspectives, but it's like you are just this perfect match,
It's funny because I think we're the complete opposite. So where you were wanting to get after this new opportunity and do and start this new thing and lead and speak and all that, like, I'm the leader that at that point in my life was like kind of hiding in the shadows. Like, I didn't want to get in front of people and talk. Like, I was in a way almost, I was avoiding being the person that God created me to be, right? But at the same time, we were like the perfect match. I feel like we were the perfect match. And it's funny because I tell people all the time, I brag on you a lot. So sorry, not sorry. And it's like, I tell people that during these classes, it's almost like I was there to learn from you more so than me to teach the interns. Like that's how it felt sometimes. Like I was one of those interns sitting in that class learning from you. And it was absolutely amazing.
It's well, thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, so just to put the kind of context around this experience that these students go through, it's a 4-year internship program. And so this is for the 4th year intern. So they've had 3 summers where they have basically sacrificed their summer. They've given of their time to pour in, to get poured into from other leaders in the business community, in ministry, and really understand what their purpose is and find out and really discover their gifts and how they take those gifts and make a difference back out in the community. So when we get them, they've already gone through 3 summers of other experiences, like sometimes great and sometimes grueling. They've got to do like a serve project and test those project management skills. By the time they come to us, they've already gone through a bit of a gauntlet, And then we're like, and now you're going to take all of what you're good at, take your passion, take your interest, and go create a business or go find what type of business you want to create and do the business pitch. And it's just like Shark Tank. So
And it could be a business or it could be a nonprofit. It could be whatever.
Yes.
You have to find a solution to a problem.
That's right.
Create
And
one.
something that you can personally identify with. And
Yeah.
so we've done this now for 2 years together, and it's an 8-week thing. Like this
Yeah.
isn't a year long, like this isn't the Harvard MBA program. This
This
is,
could be better than that, actually.
this is, you're drinking from a proverbial fire hose
Yeah.
in 6 to 8 weeks, and you've got to come up with a pitch. And I could not tell you, like, just the journey of the first year.
We're going to break the fourth
intern-
wall like Deadpool. We have
ready
Callista
to
back
break
there.
the fourth wall. And oh my gosh, but just the diversity of the ideas and the creativity, the talent, like blown away in what this generation of, high
Yeah.
school and college students are able to do and put together
Yeah.
in a very short amount of time. So
They're legit. But I have to say, I probably shouldn't take joy in this, but I think some of the most fun I have is seeing the fear in their eyes when they know they have to get on stage, like they're in Shark Tank, and then pitch their ideas. Because it's funny for me to see them kind of nervous about it when I know they're prepared, and I also know on the other end they're gonna crush it because they are prepared. Yeah,
Yes.
so I love that.
The other thing I love about it is to your point, it's taking people out of their comfort zone.
That's where you grow.
It is. And like, I remember one of our students said week 1, like, I have a fear of a fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
And we said, thank you for sharing. And we're going to help you overcome that fear between now and the time you have to present. And and this student put the work in and showed up. I mean, had his personal brand every week. And so
he had drip. That's what the young kids say, right?
Yes,
Drip.
it was so powerful. But and then to see him on the other side of it, and to be like, okay, I did overcome this. And I know they were so nervous.
Yeah. And I remember talking to him. I was like, I was you. And if I can get over it, you can definitely get over it, because he was way more prepared than I was at that time.
Yeah. So it's been this amazing ride, and I love that we're going to be doing it again here in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your backstory, because you have a pretty interesting backstory. I'm talking about like all the things that happened in Tallahassee and all that.
Yes. Okay. So this is where I'm going to put the theme out there, this drum beat that just keeps coming over and over again, which is nothing is ever wasted. Nothing is ever wasted in our careers, in our professional or personal development. Nothing is ever wasted.
That sounds like a good title for this episode.
Yes. And so, all right. So, very humble beginnings. When I grew up in the Tampa area, moved down from New York in the mid 80s. So not quite the, homegrown Floridian, but been here long enough.
Where in New York were you born?
I was born in the Bronx, the South Bronx.
Have we talked
the
about
boogie
this?
down? I don't know.
Because I was born in Queens, and I moved in '89.
Okay.
Tampa.
Yeah. We moved in 86.
Okay.
And I started in Pinellas. We lived in a duplex in Pinellas Park, P Park. And then moved to Tarpon shortly after that, Tarpon Springs. And that's really where I, went to elementary, middle, and high school, albeit had some breaks in that for various reasons. But humble beginning. Like my dad was an alcoholic, very dysfunctional situation growing up. And, at a certain point, my mom, they ended up getting divorced. And so my mom was a single mom through high school. Yeah. My mom made $12,000 a year. And here I am in high school, and I'm like, I want to go to college. Like there was something in me. I mean, from the time I was little, like 7, 8 years old, where I knew I wanted to be in the marketplace. Now, I thought that was going to be as a lawyer, because I would argue with my parents and argue with my dad and all this stuff, and just have this viewpoint. Like I needed to make a case. Yeah. And they were like, man, you should be an attorney for as much of, defending your position as you would. But I have always had that desire to be in the marketplace. And so for me, it was well, if I want to go into corporate law, it was that specific. If I want to go into corporate law, then I need to go into those environments and I need to understand about business. And so I ended up going to Florida State, ended up very, very blessed, cobbled together scholarships and grants to get myself to college, got to Florida State, go Noles, and my goal was to graduate debt-free and to at least graduate with a certain GPA. But I knew I was in the business realm. I wanted to go, so I became a business major, started in just general management, thinking, all right, corporate law, like got to know the foundation. Took my first business law class and I said,
maybe it's not for me.
that's not my place.
Was it because it was challenging or was it because it was just boring?
It was boring. It was so dull and dry. Like I love to read books upon books, but it was just too dry. And I was like, if I'm not excited about it, I shouldn't be in it.
Yeah.
So
it sounds really boring.
It was really tort. Anyway, so, but I was good at math too. And so I was like, well, what can I do with the combination of business and math? Again, like what am I good at? And so ended up double majoring in finance and management and got some internship, went back to New York. So had a connection to get an internship at the Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones. And
what was that like?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, just that was really my first foray into like being a part of the corporate world. And like I lived with my grandparents at the time, you know, when they were living in the Bronx. And so I did the whole like New Yorker commute, took the 6 train, felt like J-Lo.
I was just thinking about J-Lo. You said the Bronx, I'm thinking about J-Lo.
Yeah, so.
You're Puerto Rican too,
I
right?
am Puerto Rican. Yeah, my maiden name is Morales. So it would be Elmo from the block. Yeah, all the parallels there. So yeah, ride the 6, transfer, do all the stuff and wake up in Times Square and just, you know, that feeling of like, wow, I'm like in this big city and, you know, this little girl in this big city, like trying to make it. And I learned a lot in that experience. Like I actually, because this was the early days of the internet. So it was like Wall Street Journal Interactive, you know, it wasn't even like, it was like WSJ.com. And, but what department, what function I was working for was in the advertising sales department. Now, this is where it goes to nothing is ever wasted because I'll kind of fast forward you. After Wall Street Journal, I ended up being in consulting based here in Tampa and then went to a marketing firm and they focused on digital advertising. And so the things of like the terminology and the language of like CPMs and all of this, I was like, oh, it all started coming back to me. So that's just one example of career never, you know, nothing is ever wasted in your career.
Do you think that your experience in New York strengthened you like mentally more so than if you would have not gone?
Yes. For me, it was just this, like the pace. So again, you know, growing up in Florida, it's a very different pace and a very different lifestyle compared to being in New York. And there were pros and cons, right? So for me, it was, I loved like the whole hustle and bustle. But I didn't love being a sardine in a can of sardines on the subway. But I loved the people watching, but I didn't want to be watched. And, you know, growing up in, or going to college in Tallahassee, it's very much Southern hospitality and, you know, hey y'all, and can I get you a sweet tea? And, you know, there is this, you know, an eye contact and just jovial, I would say, personality and just culture and being in, you know, northern Florida, which is more like southern Georgia. To everybody's on a mission. You're going from point A to point B. Everyone's just focused ahead. Like there's not really an acknowledgement of the people around you. It's like, I'm on a mission. So I do think, you know, my own style and my personality, there is that like drive and I walk fast. So I still have like the New York.
You have short legs, but you walk really fast.
So I have that pace of a New Yorker in terms of like how I walk and my mission and just knowing like I'm showing up and in the fullness of who I am. But there is also that humanity, like, oh, right.
Yeah.
Like my kids are 5 feet behind.
Yeah.
You're like, my husband will say, can you like slow down?
But you're also a first generation American too? Or
On my
no?
dad's side, yes.
Okay.
On my mom's side, no. So all my grandparents were born in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
They came to New York through like that, that big migration in the like late
Just like my
40s
parents.
and 50s and all of that. So they came, they were the New Yorkers. And on my mother's side, she was the first. She was born in New York. But on my dad's side, I'm the first generation, like born here on mainland, and the first in my family to go to and graduate college.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got some of that hustle more so, like not just because you were in New York, but because of your upbringing, because your family was from a different
Yeah,
different
different ethnicity. I don't look like,
Yeah.
Although I will say Tarpon was this melting pot.
yeah.
It's very predominantly Greek community. So I kind of fit in and assimilated into that culture, just the dark hair, the curls, and, like you must be Greek. And it's like, well, not. But thanks for bringing me into the family. But yeah, there just that whole wanting to assimilate into culture and wanting to fit in. So there are these things that, being a first generation on my dad's side and second generation, it's something that happens in culture, especially for people who have migrated or, family descent of immigrants. And I learned that the first thing to go is language. It's like, okay, drop it. I want to sound like a white girl. I want to sound as normal so I can fit in, so I can be accepted.
Yeah.
And so losing that, your mother tongue, your main language or primary language goes first because you're trying to assimilate. The second thing that tends to go would be traditions. So like at Thanksgiving, we didn't cook a turkey. We cooked bening. We had arroz con gandules, and we had, roast pork, and
we do not make
pasteles.
turkey.
Yeah, we didn't make. It wasn't turkey.
Give me a ham, some curry goat.
We didn't have. So we had different types of foods or different types of celebrations. For the Sweet 16. In Latin culture, it's the quinceañera. So, those things tend to fall away because you're like, well, I don't want a quinceañera. I want a Sweet 16.
Yeah.
But man, the last thing to go, which really doesn't go, is the food. So I am so proud. Like my grandparents on my mom's side are still alive. My grandfather's 91. My grandmother is 93, kicking still. But I have all of my grandmother's recipes. Like
awesome.
how she made the pasteles. Like I went, after they had actually retired from New York to Puerto Rico, I spent some time with them on the island. And I was like, Grandma, like, you have to show me because these recipes are not going to die with you. Like they're going to live on. Like even if
was she willing to give them up?
She was. So I still have the recipes and, there's things that you adapt because maybe you like certain like flavors to come out or what have you. But
does your husband cook Latin food?
No, but he cooks so many different types of food. Yeah. So we actually work really well together when it comes to food and home improvement. So one of our favorite dishes is actually it's a spaghetti and meatball sauce, but it's from an episode of Chef Show.
Okay.
And it's based off of scarpettas. And it's like this. Anyway, you got to see the episode. Go to Chef Show. But yes, it was based off this Scarpetta's restaurant. I think they have it in Miami. And but the sauce is to die for and how they make it. So we love cooking together. We love making meals together. But yeah, I dirty all the dishes and then we try and clean as we go.
Yeah, I got lucky. My wife she cooks traditional Jamaican dishes. Like one of her favorite dishes to make is ackee and saltfish. You ever had that before?
No.
All right. So it's kind of this weird fruit that grows on a tree. And if you eat it before it's ripe, so if the seeds aren't showing yet while it's on the tree, it can actually be poisonous, right? But I think it's a Jamaican national dish. You can have it for breakfast or dinner, and typically in Jamaica, you could have breakfast or dinner anytime, right? But it looks like scrambled eggs. and has the consistency of like if a scrambled egg and an avocado had a baby. It sounds super weird, right? But it is absolutely delicious. You can cook it with bacon. You put some onions in there and some other seasonings. It's to die for. Yeah, so she'll make all the stuff, and that's like a pretty tricky one to make. So I got lucky with her.
I see in our future,
Like fun. Yeah.
all right, you bring
Yeah.
you bring yours, and I'll bring mine.
Yes, I am in. Let me know when. We're gonna make that happen.
Family gathering.
Yeah. So, you spent some time advocating for youth and education in the capital.
Yes.
Right? You want to kind of tell us about
Yes.
that?
Yeah. So this is a very full circle story.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to a little bit of my personal story of like, not having the financial means, but having that drive and having the great grades, so kind of going back to the point of like, because of my upbringing, there was this drive of, this environment that I'm growing up in is not the future for me. Like, this is not, I don't want to be a statistic. I know I'm going to defy the odds.
Yeah.
And so, you could label me as an at-risk kid because I didn't have the financial means. There was another risk factor in terms of the household and the family dynamic. But I had this drive and determination. So actually, when I was a freshman in high school, I was informed about this new scholarship program. Back then, it was called Doorways. And it allowed it paid for tuition up to 4 years in college. And you also had mentoring. So while I was in high school, I did the application. I'm like, okay, I wrote my story, good, bad, ugly, all of it.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first 5 students at Tarpon to get this new scholarship.
Did you go after that on your own, or were you encouraged to by your parents or someone else?
I was encouraged by my English teacher
Okay.
and the counselors at the school.
Okay.
And so I remember I got called into the assistant principal's office, and I'm like, I'm a good kid. Like, I do it. I'm like, listen, I'm a rule. I'm very compliant.
Yeah.
I don't ruffle the feathers too much, I don't think. And anyway, so the assistant principal called me into his office, and I'm like, my heart's racing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And he's like, I want to tell you, you've been selected, and my life changed. Like, my life went on a completely different trajectory in that moment, knowing I had this scholarship that it was like, all right, I have tuition for 4 years. I have to,
That's huge.
Yes. And it was a contract you sign. You're like, you're going to keep your good grades. You're going to, not abuse alcohol, not, no smoking, no drinking, no alcohol, no bad behavior. Like, this is your contract, and you'll meet with your mentor, or you'll get tutoring.
Just out of curiosity, what was your GPA?
So when I graduated Tarpon, I was 13th in my class.
Of course you were.
I was in the top 15 of my class. So, unweighted, it would have been 3.8. I'm pushing 3.9. Okay. So I don't know. Like, now the scale looks so different. You have all these advanced classes. I don't know.
Yeah,
it would be like
near perfect
above.
back in the day, right?
Because we didn't have a lot of like those, IB or AP as many classes.
I was like fighting to keep a 3.0 with all that extra stuff available to me.
I was like, but that was the catalyst. And so anyway, it's gone through a name change. It's now known as Take Stock in Children.
Okay.
And it started in Pinellas County, and it is now a statewide program. So so being a student, a scholarship recipient, part of it was, how do I give back? So I've done tons of like speaking gigs and presentations and fundraisers and all that for Pinellas Education. But I was tapped, I can't even remember what year, 2010, actually. It was 2010, so it was before I was married. And they tapped me to go to Tallahassee to basically go work the congressional floor, go meet with the different state senators, state House of Representatives, and share our story. And so I, along with several other students from around the state, some were alumni, some were current students, we just walked Tallahassee and just, put a face and put a story behind some of the data that they were sharing. And so I got tapped, not just to go to Tallahassee and kind of like rub elbows with the legislators and all that, but then as we were doing it that day, I got tapped again to, hey, we have an appointment to meet with the Speaker of the House. And I'm like, okay, no pressure. And, there's like the guy who founded Take Stock in Children, the head, like the current chairman and the CEO of Take Stock, the foundation itself. And, all these people and all the players with all the data about, here's the graduation rate of a Take Stock student versus like state averages. I mean, every metric you can think of blown out of the water. But why this was an important year was, so 2010, where, the housing, the recession, like all of these things had already happened, and the state was looking to cut funding and funding for education programs. So this was really a way to shed light on a really great program that's doing wonderful things and to continue funding. And so, I'm reading the body language of the Speaker of the House here. And I know at this point, he's probably heard pitches like this like all day long.
Yeah.
What? Okay, great. You showed me the date. You showed me the fact. All right. Yeah, this is, and so I just had this nudge.
I wonder what that was.
My inner, got the spirit saying, you got to share your story.
Yeah.
And, of course, like, let all the big wigs in the room, like, do their pitch.
Let them have their moment.
Let them have it. And I just said, if you would, Mr. Speaker, may I share my story with you?
That's pretty bold. Like, I would have never done that. I didn't have the guts
And
to
it's
do
not
something
like
that.
the best story, it's like, it's a hard story. And I just, may I share my story with you, and to share him what I was doing, at that time, and how my life looked vastly different from where I was when I was a 16-year-old kid, or, when I got the opportunity. And he looked at me and he's like, you should be in politics. And I was like, thanks, but I've done my part today. Anyway, so let me fast forward. The story ends with they got the funding. They kept the funding. It continues to be funded, and it's actually a matching program. So every dollar that gets donated to Take Stock in Children gets matched dollar for dollar by the state.
Well,
so this creates scholarships for thousands of students every year, and just alone. So I serve on the scholarship committee for the Pinellas Education Foundation.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just, hey, I got it for myself, but I've served on the committee now almost 20 years.
Wow.
It's hard to believe, almost 20 years of serving on this committee. And I get to ask the questions, because it's like, yeah, those numbers, that was me.
Yeah.
That statistic right there, that female Hispanic, that so-and-so, like that's me on it. That was who I was.
Yeah.
And so I've had the chance to use my voice and to use my story to help change the trajectory of so many lives. Like, I know that there's this ripple effect, and like, I know like that crown, like, that ripple effect, and that how many countless students' lives are getting changed because of this scholarship, because somebody said yes to them, because somebody said, you have the potential, and now you just need the boost to get you into the right environment so you can thrive.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So what happened after that? Like, what was your next big move?
So actually, fast forward again. So for me to really complete the circle was for me to give back. So I mentored. So as I said, part of the program is that you receive a mentor, and I still keep in touch with my mentor to this day.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful story. But and I've given, in the past, so time, talent, and treasure. And so I've given my time to serving on the committee, advocating,
Yeah.
doing that circuit to investing in a life. And I got to mentor the kid that I nominated.
Oh, wow.
So it was, I saw how the student was living. I knew his family and his background. And I said, God, like, you have all the potential. You just need a boost. And so I told his family about the program. They did the work. They had to fill out the application, but they got selected. I don't deal with any of the selection. It's just, but he got it. And I was like, hey, have you gotten paired with a mentor? I was like super excited for him. And he's like, no, I haven't done it yet. And I was like, Jesus. You're calling me to mentor this kid, aren't you? Yeah. And so I mentored him. So he got the scholarship when he was an 8th grader, and he graduated in 2020. So
you can get it that young, even as an 8th grader?
Yeah. So it's actually available for 6th. So they award them in 6th to 9th grade.
Oh, cool.
So that's the application years. And then, they need that time for the scholarship to kind of,
so
matriculate.
You're in 6th to 9th grade, and you have to sign an agreement saying you're not going to smoke or do drugs and all that stuff?
Yes.
That's a really good way to give kids healthy boundaries. And, exactly. And something to work towards, to be better.
Yes.
Yeah, this is waiting for you at the end of the road, but you got to earn it. And you earn it by keeping your grades up and by being a good kid.
Right. And, it's someone comes alongside you in the journey too. And that's like the beautiful thing of the mentors. It's, they're giving of their time to say, hey, like, you matter. And so for me, that was just this way to, really make the circle a full circle. It was like, yes, I had it. I got to speak, I got to do all these fun things, but then I actually got to mentor another student many years later. He graduated, and we talked about like, hey, what does life after high school look like? We were always talking about like kind of future and setting those goals. And there were conversations I had with him like, hey, like, you're not showing up the way I know you can, and having like a loving conversation, but it was like, I need to speak some truth and love to you. Like, hey, this feels like you're not valuing my time when you don't show up. Like I'm here for you, And so we had to have, or, hey, like, I kind of hurt, this happened, or you're kind of sloughing off in your work. And so we had a conversation about that. I'm like, but it actually, when we had the very first mentoring session, we talked about values. And it was, how do you want to show up, and what defines you, and what's important to you? And like, we talked about the value of integrity and, or, the value of family, and you want your mother to be proud of you. Well, like, so when we had these crucial conversations, I'm going back to the value, like, hey, are you living up to what you value?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
And so it was, but this beautiful, like, way of just, pouring into this next student. He graduated in 2020. So he graduated, the year of the pandemic. Like, we had to finish our last mentoring session in a virtual session, like all that stuff. But I just cried like a baby, when I knew. I was like, all right,
you're ready for the world.
You're ready.
Go get it.
And so proud, like, he stuck the course.
What's he doing now?
Actually, I haven't kept up. It's like, I know he is still in the area. I think he was doing some stuff, like, he was really interested in computer science and like building computers, so very much into the technology world.
Yeah.
So I think he was an intern for the city of St. Pete.
Okay.
So I haven't kept up with him, but I keep reaching out to his mom, and like, because just that shared story. But
that's so cool. It's funny. It's difficult being a mentor when the mentee doesn't show up. And it's frustrating because you're right. Like, you're giving up your time to pour into this person, and when they don't show up for it, it's like, come on, dude. Like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah, I'm like, my time
is valuable.
Yes. Especially doing all the things.
Yeah. But man, when you come across the kids that, or even the adults that do want to be mentored, and they put in the time and the effort, like, it's magical. It's like,
It is.
That's good.
It is.
Yeah.
And I, not just for Take Stock, but actually like this this other organization that I'm involved with. So I still have like Take Stock in Children. That's always going to be like I told my husband, we were talking about like a vision session, and I said, I want to be able to, like, for me, the next thing would be, I want to sponsor, I want to actually, sponsor another Take Stock student. But so for now, I'm just giving time and talent, but, another organization that I'm involved with is Connected 360. And they have a program, it's called NxtGen Tech 360. And it's open to high school students. And they're doing some really awesome and innovative things. They've been around for 7-8 years, I want to say. I think maybe closer to 10. And I'm just pouring into those kids too. And it's like, they have to get very much like our summer internship, where they have to identify a problem, come up with a solution. They actually have to build find a solution, leveraging technology, build a minimally viable product, and pitch. Wow. And they have to do fundraising too. The fundraising is a new component this year.
That is next level, no pun intended.
So like later this evening, we're doing mock pitches. And so it's incredible. Like they just were at Synapse. So they were exhibitors at Synapse last week, and they had to, they're practicing their pitch. There's thousands of people at Amalie Arena. And they're getting over that fear of the fear of selling, communicating, like, oh, what if I say it wrong? Or maybe, okay, did that resonate? And so they've got a lot of reps under their belt. I serve as a judge for them this year. And so I get to hear the mock pitch. So this is like the month before they get to do final pitches, and where they have to have everything ready and everything packaged. So I know it's a little rough around the edges, but they've got some reps under their belt.
So what are some of the technology solutions they're coming up with?
So I won't give away this year's class.
Tell me last year.
But like last year. So the winning team, they were called High Key. Okay. And they created, so the problem here was for musicians. If you're a songwriter and you're just trying to find like the lyrics, or you're trying to complete a song, like you've got this like one line, but like how do you actually write a song from there? Or you have like, a bed of it, like, you got the keys and you have this, but like, how do I put all that together? Well, they come up with a software as a service leveraging AI that helps with, that helps with, finish writing that song, and, creating that lyric or
That's
whatever.
Awesome.
And then one of the team members, so they all present, like it's all about teamwork and collaborate, and it's, you see this whole interplay of everybody leveraging each other's strengths, you know, and like when a team does it really well, man, they are unstoppable. And then when you see dysfunction, you see it.
Oh yeah.
But this team, and what's so awesome is, like, again, you're taking people on this journey of like low self-esteem, low confidence to, this, one of the team members performs. She is a singer, and she was like, she used her gift and she sang an aria like in front of the judge panel,
Wow.
but she showed the technology of like, here's where I started and here's what we built, and each team member got
That's
to
so cool.
pour into it. And, it's amazing, and just you can tell the confidence that they have now just going through that experience, so it's learning how to leverage technology and building things, but it's also the emotional journey of a student of how do you take them out of their shell? How do you find like what's innately them? What are their strengths? And how do you like bring it under the spotlight, let them shine? And so just seeing like this team of where they were, their personality, like all the body language of like introvert and shy to here I am,
Yep.
world, and they've just been an amazing team.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's just one, and so they're leveraging, and they're in high school. These are not like, this isn't Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
The 23-year-old, 30-year-old starting the thing out of their garage. It's like these are high school kids. Like
That's wild.
the future is very bright in Tampa Bay, and
Yeah.
you can just see like the more students that get exposed to the program,
So how do you get involved with that group with NxtGen?
Yeah, so I'm happy to direct you. So connected360.org is is probably the best place to go check it out.
Okay.
But yeah, I can direct you to
That's neat.
to the founder. Her name is Robin, and she's amazing. Like, she's just done some incredible things, and the students love it. Like, some come back year after year because it's like, oh, I learned, but now I know what I can do, and I can show
Yeah.
up better. We actually have a team this year, it's the finalist team, and they were like freshmen last year. And so now they've come back and they're like, all right, we have a better idea.
So can students just sign up to get involved?
They can, yes. So
Okay.
they can, and they don't even have to come with an idea. That's part of it is like they're doing like ideation sessions, like figure out a problem in the world that you see, like look around you, look outside, look at
Yeah.
your environment, see what's happening, and like what's a valid problem like that needs a solution that only you can bring to the market.
So cool.
So yeah.
So you mentioned singing earlier, and you're quite the singer yourself, aren't you?
Thank
You are. You are. It's
Yes.
funny. I think it wasn't the last time I saw you at church singing, but the time before, you literally, like, I forgot what song it was. You ever have those moments where it's like the Holy Spirit just like hits you?
Yes.
You made me cry.
Yes. So I sing for Jesus. So I actually have sung for a really long time. That was, if you ask me what my 6-year-old and 7-year-old self wanted to be besides a lawyer,
Yeah.
I wanted to sing.
Okay.
So yeah, Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, and these were big voices. Those were
Yeah.
my influences in the day. But yeah, I serve as a worship leader, a volunteer, and so that's another way I give of my time and my talent of really just worshiping God and engaging others. And actually, I'm glad I brought my notebook here because I sent something to Pastor Jay yesterday. I was like, listen, I had like this, God dropped this really big line on me in the last week. But yeah, so I've served at the chapel now for over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we joined the chapel in summer of 2012, and then it was in the fall that we raised our hand. We went through. It was first steps. It wasn't growth
Yeah.
track, but it
Yeah.
was first steps. So it's the OG to growth track, and I knew I wanted to be on the worship team. I had been serving on the worship team at my last church, and talked with Pastor Brandon, got involved, and and so I was. And then we found out we were pregnant with our first child. So that was 2012, 2013. And so now we're at 24, so 12 years, almost 12 years of serving. And it just keeps getting better. But like, God has been so good in taking us through, like, from one situation to the next, and seeing one miracle to the next, not just in my own life, but in others on the team and others in the, in the congregation. And it's just, you can just see it moving. And but yeah, we have a lot of things that we talk about in terms of values, like in you, through you. Like, it can't happen through you until it happens in you.
Yeah.
So, we have, as a worship leader, we have to have that private time. Like, we have to go to God in private. We have to go to Jesus in private and worship, and just, I do it full out. I do it in the dark, I sing in the dark in the bathroom, like when my husband's on duty at the firehouse. Like, I'm sure the kids just, they can hear me on the other side of the house. But, like, that's whenever I'm just struggling with something, or just, God, you've been so good. I go and worship. But this is the thing I'm going to share with you that really he gave to me. And this is actually Tony Robbins. And this is Tony Robbins talking about the physicality and movement and its impact on the body. And he said, why he does like all these like high energy. And he said, the higher the level of energy, the higher the level of retention. And God just said, yeah, and that's worship in the word. So when you say, when we go into worship and like the energy, when you're like, that energy is like full out, it's like, I didn't think about it this way, but the higher the level, the energy and like the engagement and people like clapping their hands and raising their hands and singing and using their voices, the higher the level of retention of the word. And I was like, worship in the word. Like that when we worship, when we lift our hand, when we praise, we're taking that to that next level. It's actually creating the space and the opportunity for the word to be retained in us. So when we go through those hard times, it's like, like, what do you say about me? I don't have to like open my Bible. I know the word. I've experienced the word. It's like, yes, this is what you say about me. So whenever I have those moments of doubt, when I go into worship, it's like, I'm just opening up for God to like pour in and for his word to be retained in me physically and spiritually and mentally.
Gosh, that's like a mic drop right there. It just blew my mind.
The higher the level of the energy, the greater the level of retention.
It makes total sense too, because like just thinking back in my life when I probably did worship more than I do right now. It was a different life. Like I did retain more, and I feel like I obviously got more because I was more obedient. But I'll be thinking about that all day now. Jeez.
But it was like completely unrelated talk, but and that's what worship in the word does. And so for me as a worship leader, like, again, I've been singing and praising God for a long time. And just even that, like that new word that he dropped in, like in the last week where I go, that's so good. So when I serve again, and we talk about, it's like, it's not just for ourselves. We aren't just worshiping so like people can like, it's not about that. It's really about like having people experience God at another level. And so that eye contact, when you like, when we say lift your hands and clap your hand, like we're inviting everyone to be a part of like what God's doing in them and through them.
So let me ask you this. I think I know the answer to this question. So let's say there's someone like me who cannot sing, who cannot play an instrument, who doesn't preach, anything like that. Like, how can I worship so I retain more?
I just say make a joyful noise.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like people without rhythm, But honestly, like, even if it, like, here's a great example. There's a woman, I don't even know her name, but I have seen her from the stage and I know where she sits. She sits.
You look for her every time.
I look for her every time. You know what she does? She signs. So she knows sign language. And that is her expression of worship, is signing. So the word is and it's not like anybody can see her. It's not like she's signing for anyone.
Yeah.
She's just expressing herself in sign language to our Father.
Yeah.
And it gets me every time. There's another one. I actually got the joy of sitting next to him at church this weekend. He's like 2, 3. His name is Cody. Oh my gosh. He's this little kid, but he loves to worship. Like his mom brings him in specifically for worship, and then she'll take him to kids. But he's like, I have to be there. So this weekend, he showed up, and he's got like his little toy, like electric guitar.
That's cool.
And like I see him, so that perspective of being on the stage and looking out, and there are different people that catch my attention, and even in the far back, like our church is, it's sizable, and and we talk a lot about like the 5 and 7, but and I'll explain what that is. But I look for the people all the way in the back, where they're kind of like in the shadow. I see a silhouette, and I see their hands raised, and it is amazing, and I'm engaging with them all the way in the back, and it's, and I see them, and then I'll see them after, and I'm like, hey, I love your worship. Like, I love your worship from the back. You can just see them getting into it. To the 2-3-year-old little baby boy, Cody, I loved you. Like, he is a future worship leader in the making. Cause he's just hands raised, he's not worried about his voice or if he plays the right note on the guitar or what he's just, just that childlike faith and just that childlike expression. So I would say, it's not so much, do you have to have the perfect voice? No. Do you have to have rhythm? No. But find the thing that's going to be your way of expressing, whether that's just hands raised, eyes closed, kneeling, sign language, whatever, signing, whatever it needs to be. But I just say, find it. For me, whether I'm on the stage or on the floor, I'm full out, hands raised, just, singing I'm pretty much to the point that I have no voice. It's just, I'm just roaring at God, and I'm just, sometimes I am, because I'm just, especially now in the season I'm in, I'm just pursuing God, okay, God, you order our steps, and I have to listen to your no's as much as I listen to your go's right now. And so I'm just going, okay, God, what you have for me is for me. Yeah. So I'm just boldly singing to you, because I know whatever you have for me is for me. Whatever you're doing, however you're, ordering the steps, and I don't see it yet, God, but I know you're in it. And so for me, I'm just full out worship.
Can you, I'm asking you a question, if you're curious about this. Can work be a form of worship if you're doing the work for God?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's do everything unto the Lord.
And that's my form of worship. I do everything for God, right? I'm working for God to glorify his name, spread the kingdom and all that. Yes. And I can't sing, so I just work hard.
And yes. And so for the last, since 2016, so what is that, 8 years or so, I've had a word of the year. And I have shared with my leaders my word of the year. And I do that because it's kind of this, and I tell them the scripture too, so it's, I've been very fortunate to be in places of influence where I know sometimes that voice that can get drowned out, or it can be suppressed. Hey, very politically correct, we love you. Sometimes people are told to kind of suppress their faith. And I've been very fortunate that I've not been in those environments where I have growing levels of influence. And then it's and I'm going to tell you what drives me, because I think that's, as a leader, there was kind of this whole, what is your philosophy of leadership? What do you value? Because people won't follow you if they don't know what you're about, what matters to you, what you value. Right. So for me, it's I am a daughter of the Most High God. I am loved. I am anointed for, whatever he's given, he's put in my hands to do. He's put me in situations and environments and circumstances to be an influence and to be, the marketplace is my ministry. Yeah. That's why I said, from the time I was a little kid and wanted a briefcase for Christmas, I knew I wanted to be in the marketplace. I wanted to make an impact for the kingdom. So yes, the marketplace is an area of ministry. And for me, my two favorite women of the Bible are Deborah and Lydia.
Oh, why?
Deborah, because she was a just and fair leader. She was a prophetess. She was, getting the divine download from God of how to handle disagreements. And she did it outside of her tent, out of her home, So she was a leader in the marketplace, helping to resolve disputes. And she had bold courage, conviction about, hey, we need to go take this. Mm-hmm. And, it's Barack's but are you sure? Okay, well, come with me. But by the way, a woman's going to deliver it in, the victory. So I think part of it is just being a just and fair leader, a woman of influence in the community. And then Lydia, Lydia is this dealer of purple cloth. She's the first convert in Europe. And she, so she's someone with influence, and she has, monetary influence to help fund the mission and to, fund the evangelism of Christianity. And so, but yeah, these are two women of the Bible I look up to, okay, this, I want, sometimes I feel like I'm a Martha, just working all the time. But I go, my ambition is to be viewed as, or to, and to live out, like, live out that influence like a Lydia or Deborah.
Well, you're very influential, I believe, and you're also quite disruptive. So tell me about some of the innovative things that you have seen recently.
All right. So I'll talk of 2 examples. So I know we
Okay.
talked about NxtGen tech already, so I get to see more innovation later this evening. But 2 things that one, in my last role, my last role was as head of product marketing and sales operations for a company based in St. Pete, and they were doing 3D, augmented reality, and virtual reality for furniture and DIY retailers.
I remember, sorry, the first time you told me about what you were doing with VR, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool.
It is so cool.
Because I had just reached out to one of my friends to create a virtual space based off of a blueprint that I had received for a kitchen and cafeteria remodel, and he did it. And I thought like I was like way ahead of the game. And then I'm talking to
like,
you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they are way ahead of the game. I'm just scratching
Yeah.
the surface.
And
Yeah.
it was such a ride. Like, happy to share like different things that I've done for them. But yeah, so their whole thing is software as a service. So it's a B2B software as a service platform. And they do everything from, they do the 3D modeling. So you take this chair and you have a 3D, asset that's made in this, and you can, use augmented reality to see, okay, does it fit in my room,
Yeah.
or how does that look? Or you can even configure, they have 3D product configurators. So let's say you want to go to Ashley Home Furniture and you want to build out a sectional, you can do that, and you can do that with different color fabric, and because sometimes when you go to a store, they can't display the full selection of their inventory because there's just not enough space.
So I actually used that software, that technology, when I was looking for these chairs for the studio.
Like,
here.
how does that look?
Yeah, how's it gonna fit? Is it gonna fit?
Is it
right?
gonna fit?
Yeah.
And do I like the look?
Yeah.
And there is another part of it, like, okay, does it feel comfortable? So that's why typically people will go like now. But what we notice is consumer patterns consumer behaviors are changing, and there is this craving and desire for more experiences. And so, but they also don't want like, I don't want to deal with like the furniture sales guy, like, that type of, sales tactics and what have you. But they want to, they know they need to update their furniture. It's time for them, or they just need to spruce up. And, but that whole consumer journey of shopping online, visualizing, configuring it, and then saying, hey, I just want to go because I just want to feel the cushions.
Yeah.
Like, do I like it? Is it comfortable? Before I hit the, the buy, add to cart.
Yeah, furniture is not cheap.
Yeah, no, and they did like 3D kitchen design software and bathroom design. I mean, some amazing HD renders. They look as if they're the real, they look better than, photography.
Yeah.
So you think of, from a business side, they're, able to operate more efficiently because they don't have to do like the photo shoots and, rent the space. And, they only have one version of that furniture because, all of that. So it's just driving some efficiency around product visualization and rendering capability. It's really, really fascinating, really amazing stuff. So I'm glad I got to serve there for a season. And then last week, at Synapse. I mean, that's like the intersection of innovation, everything that's right with Tampa Bay and like the investor community. So entrepreneurship, innovation. So I got to meet, and there were different panelists and different speakers at the event, but I got to meet the guy who has the patent. He's a cellist, and he holds the patent for the first cello, 3D printed cello. I wish I had gotten a picture. Though I'll find a picture. But anyway,
send me a
so
picture.
it's like a carbon fiber, and so he shared, the typical process or the duration, how long it takes to create a real cello, like the wood and all of that, is a matter of months. And he can create this 3D printed cello in hours.
How do people? This is incredibly disruptive.
Yeah.
How do the people that are more traditional feel about 3D printed cello as opposed to a wood one?
I don't care. That's the disruptive
love
part
it.
of
I
me.
don't care.
Like, I don't care. And here's why I don't care what they think. What I care is, could you imagine, again, this goes back to my roots as like a kid who lacked, you know, I didn't have the ability to afford. I wanted to play piano and I never had the ability because I didn't have the money to take piano lessons. Think about the kid who maybe is this like future cellist, like could be in a symphony. If only they had access to the instruments to learn how to play.
Yeah.
A cello, like a cello, like the traditional route is thousands of dollars, like thousands of dollars. Kid, you know, that's growing up without, does not have $1,000 lying around. You know, I'll be provocative and say that is an instrument of privilege. Imagine if a student who had this desire to learn to play and had access to an instrument that was more affordable, what they could do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what was beautiful, like this whole Synapse event, there was even a whole session around arts and, you know, leveraging art technology in the arts. And Tampa Bay has so much that we kind of underplay. We underplay the art community and the music and just murals and museums and all these things, and this part that contributes to the culture and the ecosystem of the Bay. But think about, you know, that student who wouldn't be able to afford an instrument now could potentially have access to something that is more affordable and more durable. Like, you also think about like sustainability and the number of trees that are getting killed because you want to make this beautiful cello. It's a beautiful cello, but gosh, like these are recycled plastic and things to create something new. So you're actually bringing back into the ecosystem something, nothing is ever wasted. Going back to that, this thing that used to be waste is now getting reproduced into an instrument that can be played, that a student could learn. Like, think about accessibility of music education, because now you have something that's more affordable. Like, what school is going to invest in, let's get 5 cellos, real cello, or we could get the 3D printed cello for 5 for 1, you know?
This brings me back to a conversation we had with one of our interns, and she wanted to provide instruments to kids that couldn't afford them.
That's right. Nicole, the crazy musician. Yeah. Nicole.
Imagine that partnership.
Nicole, that music. Yes.
Yeah.
I actually thought of her. So actually, it's really great. You're bringing it all back together. You know, there were people that I met at Synapse that I go, man, if I could just bring them and like connect this to one of our interns. Like, there was one, his name is Tony, and he does like walls, like World of Walls, but he's like Tampa Walls. Anyway, he's an artist, and he's talking about how do we use augmented reality, like have a mural with augmented reality that lets you know more about the artist behind the mural. Like, amazing. And I'm going, I have this student who was an intern at the chapel. Like, y'all should meet.
Yeah.
And even this the person who holds this patent for the 3D printed cello. I'm like, you know what? I have a student.
Yeah.
She's in the band at USF. Like, y'all should meet, like, think about it, you know? And so this is one person, he's an entrepreneur, and she came up with this idea. Yeah. And like, now I'd feel more of a connector of, you know.
That's awesome. So, silly question. What did the cello look like? Was it?
It was all black, but it had, the strings. So he talked about, how many prototypes he had created before he got the body of the cello. And it was like 147, like burned through 100. I don't even know. Like this is a guy who started it out of his home.
Yeah.
And now he's like, I'm actually in backlog. I have to catch up my production to the demand. Like, insane, so good. But yeah, it took something like 147 prototypes before he got the body. Then for the stem, he said I got it right on the first try. Yeah. But he also had the 147 like learning lessons before that. And then he said, I could have produced this other piece, but it's like $10, so I can get that, and I don't have to burn the capital on that piece. So, but yeah, it was like an all black. But then even he described because the way the materials are used, like even the way that the sound resonates with that, like it still sounds like a cello,
Yeah.
but it's lighter. So it's
Yeah.
lighter. It's more sustainable. It will last for 100 years.
Durable.
It's more durable.
Yeah.
And it's more affordable. Like, I'm just going, oh my gosh, this
crazy.
is beautiful.
So does he have any ambitions to create other instruments?
I'm not sure. Maybe within the strings. And he
Yeah.
also explained, I'm not sure, like for brass, there's so much with like
Yeah.
all the
I'm
mechanics.
thinking like guitars and violins.
Yeah,
and
guitar.
all that
Yeah,
stuff.
violin, viola. Yes, all of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, you could certainly, just.
Man, he has a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah. And then the shop, like it's out in Odessa where they have the 3D printing, studio. So anyway,
There's a 3D printing studio in Odessa.
Uh-huh.
So I could come up with my own designs
Yes.
and then send it there and they can make it for me?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I saw that. Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. I heard. Yeah. So I met that guy too at
That
Synapse.
sounds like
Yeah.
fun.
So there's a ton of innovation happening, especially here in the Tampa Bay region. I just, got to see a little glimpse of it, and
Yeah.
it was awesome to be in quite that space. But yeah, innovation, as they said for Synapse, innovation lives here in Tampa Bay.
Yes, it does. So earlier you made a comment about God leading your path. So where's he leading you now? What are you up to?
Oh, well, he's got me. Here's another line I got for you. I'm laying floors and knocking on doors.
Okay.
So right now, my husband and I, at the end of last year, we had some budget, and we said, all right, so we've been dying to install new floors in our house. So my husband and I, we've been laying floors, so we've been going a room at a time. And like I said, whether it's cooking or it's home improvement, we actually work really well together. Like I know that might be precarious for some married couples to embark on that, but this is not our first time.
I think it's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
But this is not our first time at the rodeo when it comes to laying floors. So yeah, so we've been doing that for the last 2 months. We're almost finished, so I'm proud to say. But yeah, it's been doing that and then knocking on doors. So I'm in the hallway. Okay. I'm in the hallway, professionally speaking. And, I've got some opportunities that I'm, working on. But actually, I'm working with a startup. I don't know if you would put my title as like chief of staff or I don't know, anyhow. But what they're doing is also really innovative, and it has some connections with Puerto Rico coming up. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, this is a person that I know I actually used to be one of the co-founders, his trainer when I was in consulting. And he's like, we really need some help with like sales and marketing. And, and so they had an event a couple weeks ago. So I came in at the right time and I said, I'm happy to help you like prepare for the event. So we've been doing like post-event follow-ups and leveraging, they have a CRM system, but it's like they've not quite fully configured it. So helping them with really organizing their sales and marketing process and the having them leverage the tools that are given to them, and and helping them to also open doors as well.
Yeah, CRMs can be so challenging. We're trying to currently build out a CRM right now, but like we don't need like a Salesforce or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're using kind of like it's a project management solution that has CRM features, and goodness, building that thing out and then sticking to it, which is my hardest. That's my problem. I don't stick to it. But that's no joke.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what I was one of the hats that I wore in my last role was, they had invested in our CRM system. And that's kind of a problem that I see is like, you have the tools, but you're not utilizing it, or you're not utilizing it effectively. You're not utilizing it consistently. And when done well, it's like, sometimes it's like sales or marketing, and it's actually both. Like these things have to work together. But when you get it right, actually you power both the sales and the marketing engines simultaneously when done right. If you're, depending on what CRM, I'm agnostic to CRM systems. Like for me, it's got to have certain types of functionality capability to power both sales and marketing engines. But that's
That's
what
so
I've been
awesome.
up to. So
It's,
a little bit of consulting, a little bit advisory, and
yeah.
when-
It just makes me think about how like you would help catapult these mentees through the internship and other things that you do, but now you're catapulting entrepreneurs.
yes.
And all the things that you're talking about right now are like, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, yeah, I could use help with that, use help with this and that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
that's cool.
So yeah, so I'm still activating, using my gifts, just
Hmm.
in, wasn't necessarily the way I thought I had envisioned for the year, but I'm also excited to see what God's
Isn't
up
it funny
to.
how that happens? Like we always come up with these grand plans in our head, like we're gonna do things this way, and then God's like, nope, you're gonna do it this way. And then
Yes.
once you like lean in and you do it the way He wants, and you believe and you have faith, it always works out better in the end, and you always end up someplace that you never would have gotten to with your plan,
It's
and it's
true.
nowhere near as
Yes.
good as
Yes.
God's plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like set up for something better.
exactly. That's all it is. That's all it is. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and
Yeah,
sharing your story. Are you taking new clients? You want to give any information to people out there?
Yeah. So I would say best way would probably be via email. So we can put that in the
Okay.
podcast, Laisha, LAISHA 44 at gmail.com. And I'll give you my cell phone and all that good stuff. I have an LLC, Daily Unlimited. It's getting, resurrected. So
Okay. I
yeah,
like
it's
it.
coming together, but
That's
yeah.
awesome.
But yes, taking new clients and happy to help, even just, advise and kind of hear, what. For me, it's about working with companies that have a good product market fit.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of businesses out there. Like this one that I'm working with right now, it's like, oh my gosh, like they're onto something really special, and for me, kind of having that background of project management, product management, and just that discernment. It's like I know good product, and I've also helped these kids with the pitches, and it's like,
Yeah.
I know what good product market fit looks like
Yeah.
when you've got it. And so this one company that I'm working with, you see all the makings, like all these things are starting to come together. It's like, yeah, this is a really strong product market fit. And then you have others that are like, they're trying to get over the hump. Like they're still trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. And that's still like a little too early stage
Yeah.
for me. But yeah, the ones where I can see they've got that strong product market fit, it's like, all right, but maybe they're focusing on the technology so much that they haven't caught, like their sales and marketing processes haven't caught up to their platform or to the technology. So it's like, okay, let's
Yeah.
lay some good foundation there.
So do you primarily work with tech companies, or will you work with really anybody's, depending if they meet your criteria?
Yeah, I'm not beholden to just tech companies. That's kind of where I have a little bit more expertise, kind of where I'm coming from, of software, SaaS, B2B. This one is a marketplace,
Yeah.
so it's a different model from just a straight SaaS. And then even where I was a product manager for an insights and analytics platform, so it's like it all kind of tends to go into this software. But I am not a developer, so
Yeah.
it's not really that I'm hands-on keys coding. It's just, but I can see process, and I can see where you have one or where it's lacking and needs to be shored up. And so,
Yeah, it's funny because you're very detail oriented, and so many entrepreneurs, myself included, we do not do details well at all. And we need people like you. So anybody out there, if you need help growing your business,
got
reach out to
the
Laisha.
the depth and the breadth. It's like I can see
Yeah.
across function, but I can also, and depending on, I can go deep too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're amazing. Well, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
coming on the podcast. And I feel like we should do a follow up in the next few
think so.
months or
Yes.
so and see what's
Where
new
is it
with
now?
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, up for that. Thank you.
Thanks.